My nearly 4-year-old daughter absolutely adores going grocery shopping with me, especially when we can snag one of those oversized race car-shaped carts. She loves climbing into the front seat, pretending to steer as I zoom us through the aisles. Her laughter is pure, infectious joy, and it's easily one of my favorite parts of our errands. If the store isn't too busy, usually during a mid-morning lull, I like to treat her to a special little game. Near the deli counter, there's a large open space where I spin the cart around in circles, making her giggle uncontrollably. It's our silly little ritual, and it never fails to brighten our day. On occasion, we catch the eye of a passing shopper who can't help but smile. Just a dad and his daughter sharing a playful moment. What's not to love? But yesterday, our innocent fun turned sour. After one quick spin, I was ready to continue down the aisle when an older woman, probably in her early 70s, marched toward us. Her lips were pressed into a thin, disapproving line, and she was shaking her head in what could only be described as pure contempt. She stopped directly in our path and pierced me with a cold glare, her eyes brimming with judgment. I slowed the cart, giving her a puzzled look, unsure what had prompted such hostility. Some people have absolutely no respect for public spaces, she snapped, her voice sharp and dripping with condescension. I blinked, taken aback. I'm sorry, ma'am, I replied evenly, my voice polite but firm. I was just having a little fun with my daughter. I didn't mean to upset you. Have a nice day. I expected that to be the end of it. Just a brief, awkward encounter to brush off and forget. But she wasn't finished. Her face twisted further, and she jabbed a finger at me as if scolding a misbehaving child. Shame on you, she barked, her voice rising, for teaching your child such poor manners. I raised my children to behave properly in public. I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I kept my voice level. Clearly, that's a lesson you didn't bother to learn yourself. I shot back, my eyes locked with hers. I wonder how well they turned out with a role model like you. Her mouth flapped open in shock. She muttered something under her breath, something about her children being perfect. At that moment, I felt a tug on my sleeve. My daughter's wide, worried eyes searched my face. She's incredibly perceptive, far beyond her years, and sensitive to tension. Daddy, she whispered, did I do something wrong? My heart clenched. I crouched down beside her, loud enough for the old woman to hear every word. No, sweetheart, I assured her, my voice warm and clear. You did absolutely nothing wrong. That's just a very grumpy old bully. The woman's face flushed deep red. I am not grumpy, she snapped, her voice laced with anger. I just want to be left alone. I straightened, my eyes narrowing. Oh, not grumpy? I said, my tone dropping into something colder, sharper. Then you're just a bully. And if you want to be left alone, here's some advice. Mind your own damn business. You say you taught your children how to behave in public? Well, I'm teaching mine to stand up to bullies like you. So, thanks for the perfect lesson. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Finally, she clamped her lips shut and stomped away, still muttering and shaking her head. I thought that was the end of it, but fate had other plans. As we continued our shopping, we crossed paths with her twice more. Both times I couldn't resist leaning into the bit. I made a grand show of vroom-vrooming the cart like a race car, much to my daughter's delight. But whenever we passed near the old woman, I'd abruptly slow down, stopping dramatically as if approaching a speed trap. Careful, honey, I'd say in a mock-serious voice. We don't want to upset the fun police. My daughter, ever quick on the uptake, squealed, Oh no, Daddy, the fun police, and burst into a fit of giggles. The woman's face only grew darker each time we passed, her scowl deepening to something almost cartoonish. The final act of our little drama played out at the checkout lanes. By sheer coincidence, or perhaps the universe's sense of humor, we approached the only open-manned register at the same time. I could have easily gone first. We had arrived moments ahead of her, but instead, I stepped back with an exaggerated, chivalrous gesture. After you, I said smoothly, flashing a courteous smile. She shot me a venomous look, but predictably, she seized the opportunity to escalate her outrage. As soon as she reached the cashier, she launched into a tirade. "That man and his daughter," she declared loudly, pointing at us, "have been harassing me the entire time, racing around, causing a scene, disrupting the whole store." The cashier, a sharp-eyed young woman, glanced over at me. I met her gaze with an innocent, slightly confused expression, accompanied by a shrug that said, "I have no idea what she's on about." I wasn't just any disheveled shopper. I was still in my formal work attire, pressed suit, polished shoes, a neat tie, hardly the picture of a troublemaker. And beside me stood my little girl, all curls and innocence, dressed like a fairy princess with a puffy tulle skirt and sparkly shoes. Picture perfect. The cashier's lips twitched, barely hiding her amusement. She nodded sympathetically at me before turning back to the woman, her voice patient but detached. "I see," she said, with a smile that was all customer service politeness but none of the concern. The woman realized she was getting nowhere and huffed indignantly, stomping off toward customer service, presumably to lodge another complaint. Despite having a full cart and my daughter's enthusiastic help bagging every item, which slowed us down considerably, we still ended up leaving at nearly the same time, and I couldn't resist one final send-off. The moment we stepped outside, I gripped the cart tightly and with a loud, playful "Vroom!" sped it forward in a mock drag race. My daughter shrieked with delight, her laughter ringing out across the parking lot. I didn't bother looking back, but I could almost feel the heat of the old woman's glare burning into my back. Did she ruin my shopping trip? Maybe. But I like to think I gave her something to stew on for the rest of the day. She wanted to spoil our fun, so I made sure she wouldn't forget it anytime soon.